Hello, Randall.
Hi, Donna. Thank you so much for hosting this again for me.
You're welcome. So I just wanted to let everyone know that I did put this on Facebook Live. We'll see what happens. I don't know. You never know if it's going to work. So we'll see. Welcome to week 2 of our phonemic awareness training with Randall. Okay, how come I lost my picture with you? All right. Anyway, and we are recording right now, just to let you know. So this week, just a little bit by way of background, Randall Klein is an early reading specialist and author from Bozeman, Montana. He taught in multi-aged early childhood classrooms for 16 years and is the author of the Klein Method of Early Reading Mastery. And tonight we're going to learn about alphabet mastery for ages 3 through 7. So take it away, Randall.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I'm actually putting into the chat box now the link to last week's session that Donna has on her YouTube channel. So I'm an early reading specialist. I specialize in teaching children ages 3 to 7, coaching parents, helping early childhood educators. But most of my work over the last 35 years has been working with public school teachers, kindergarten, first and second grade, reading specialists, Title I teachers. And what we've found is that the foundational information, the foundational skills, activities, methods, materials that I use to actually teach young children to read are perfect as supplemental ideas, materials, methods.
What's going on here?
All right, everyone, you need to stay muted.
It ends up that it's very appropriate for kindergarten, first and second grade classrooms to give children who have dropped stitches those foundational skills. And so through the years, most of my work has been working with children who are struggling beginning readers in the kindergarten, first and second grades. And so what I'm going to present to you, what I'm going to share with you are ways that I teach young children to read, but they're, for you, can be very supplemental. They can just simply be new ideas, new techniques, a new perspective on what you're already doing. You're expected to teach the alphabet in your public school or private school classroom in a certain way, using a certain program, and that's fine. And so my games, my activities that I'll share with you today just might prompt you to look at what you're doing differently, to change some of the things, to add some things, and I think it'll just get the dialogue started. So I'm very happy to be presenting tonight, and we're going to talk about alphabet mastery for young children ages 3 to 7. My materials and methods can be found in the book that I published last December, The Klein Method of Early Reading Mastery. So it is a method, but it consists of games and activities that can be used in a supplemental way. One of the downloads I believe that Donna will be providing to you on the invitation site for this series are a couple chapters from my book, How a Child Teaches Himself the Alphabet, How a Child Teaches Himself to Decode. And I think those will be of interest to you. I'm going to very briefly review what we did last week because I think it's really important that we understand that everything we do has the foundation of phonemic awareness. And so last week I talked extensively about phonemic awareness for young children. But again, we have children who are struggling in kindergarten, first and second grade, and they need stronger phonemic awareness. We understand that reading for all children begins with phonemic awareness, which is the perception of those tiny speech sounds in our spoken language. We know that cat has 3 phonemes and boot also has 3 phonemes, even though boot is spelled with 4 letters. We're talking about speech sounds, not letters. We want to be sure that children have strong phonemic awareness so that they can have success learning the alphabet, and learning how to read. Because we understand that phonemic awareness is the most important thing we've ever learned about teaching young children to read and giving good reading instruction, it informs our instruction that we need to move from speech to print. And it's all about moving from speech to print. So all the games and activities I'm going to show you and explain to you tonight, suggest to you tonight, involve the child moving from speech to print, from sound to symbol, and from the concrete to the abstract. Sound is concrete. When a child says a sound, his body vibrates. When a child thinks a sound, the body vibrates. And then we connect those sounds to abstract print symbols, just like we do when we're teaching young children how to work with math concepts. We start with concrete things, we give them things to touch, to hold, to count, and then we add in the abstract symbols to those. We talked very briefly about rhyming. Rhyming does not directly relate to learning how to read, but it's very important in stimulating the part of the brain that deals with sounds in spoken language. It's also an excellent way, it's sort of an early warning system for those preschool and kindergarten teachers. At some point, if a child is not rhyming, it can be a little red flag waving above that child saying, help me, my phonological awareness needs strengthening, my wiring isn't quite right, so please help me. And I talked about the fact that teaching children specific rhymes is the best way to teach them how to rhyme. And so I just simply went through a set of rhyming pictures with young children, and I call out mouse,
Jesus God Almighty,
house. Okay, here we go. Cat, hat, pear, bear. And after a very few short days, whenever I hold up a picture of cat, we're going to have all the children calling out cat. So I just briefly went over that. And then that gives us an activity that the child can do in the classroom, including kindergarten and including some first grade children who just need something to do, something productive that allows them to be integrated into the classroom, allows them to use their hands, and allows this teacher to observe to see how this child's doing. I want to remind you that those gold stars on these pages indicate that these are games that you can download for free. I'm going to put that in the chat box right now. Oh, you know what? That is not a link, is it? That's just a... Oh, I better put an actual link in there, sorry. Okay, that's not working so well. Let me just put in my oops, it's not working. I'm not doing such a good job here. It's not giving me my website. I'll get to it later. My apologies.
I'll do it for you.
Okay. Sorry about that, folks. I'll get better as the weeks go by. Okay. So an activity like this can be something that can allow a child to feel like they're part of the classroom. What I talked last week about primarily were the two essential skills, beginning sound isolation and phoneme segmentation. And I talked a lot about beginning sound isolation because that is the foundation for a child's understanding of the alphabet. So again, we all teach the alphabet in various ways depending on what programs we're expected to use in our classrooms. But bottom line is we want children to understand the alphabet. So as they're learning it, it has greater meaning to them. So we really spent some time talking about beginning sound isolation, the child's ability to look at house and say, ah, to look at zebra and say z, to hold a banana and say b, to touch the table and say t. Why? Because we want children to understand and use and apply the alphabetic principle. The alphabetic principle, that sounds are represented by print, by letters. This is that speech to print. If a child can look at bear and say b, then they can look at that black abstract symbol and understand something about it. that it relates to that B. To appreciate the alphabetic significance of letters, children must gain conscious access to phonemes. So that's where beginning sound isolation comes in, and that's why I'm going to continue to reinforce that in this session on alphabet mastery. I want to teach the alphabetic principle before I teach the alphabet. In some cases where children already know the alphabet or they're being taught the alphabet, the teachers need to circle back and make sure that each child has this understanding of how speech maps to print. So I play games with children like beginning sound bingo. Who has the monkey? Who has the buttons? And the children just simply put the game piece on the picture and say monkey or balloon. Let me see if I can find that. Here we go. If I'm playing with a small group of children, I can see what each child has on their card. I see that Tommy over there has a ball and a monkey and a button, so I might say, who has buttons? So Tommy is taught how to put the game piece on the buttons and to say and repeat buttons. Who has church? Well, Veronica does, so she's going to put her game piece on there. This is deceptively simple, folks. It's deceptively simple. When I ask Veronica to repeat turtle, it's more important for her brain to hear her voice than my voice. So when I say, who has elephant, I'm saying elephant. Thomas is saying elephant when he puts his game piece on the elephant, and all the other children in the circle are also hearing elephant. So again, this is how I prepare children to teach them the alphabet, but you're going to have some kindergarten and first grade children even who at a subconscious level actually don't understand the alphabet. They just know they're supposed to learn it. They're trying to memorize it. They're trying to keep up with your fastest learners. So we want to help them. Now, when a child can isolate beginning sounds, wonderful things can happen. First of all, I can show the child how to play the game independently. Veronica, let me show you how to play this game all by yourself. Which card would you like to choose? Okay, we'll start with the bird card. Now we always start in the box. That's where we always start this game. So let's put a game piece in the box where the bird is. What's the beginning sound of bird? And she says B. Okay, let's find some other pictures that start with B. So again, this is deceptively simple. But with a 4 or 5-year-old and sometimes a 6-year-old, even though they have the skill to do this activity, which is simply beginning sound isolation, bear, book, bell, we have to teach them how to play the game. And that in itself can be something that's new for them and how to do it. Okay, Veronica, it's your turn. Where are we going to put our game piece? Right, we always start in the box. So why am I doing this? Because I want Veronica to be really, 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 really good at beginning sound isolation. I want to give her hands-on material. I want to give the opportunity for repetition, for success, for independence, for choice. I love giving children choice of activities. So this independent beginning sound isolation can be something that's perfect for a first grade classroom, even a second grade classroom with struggling learners, because they need to be really good with their beginning sound isolation. Remember, the gold star means that that's an activity that you can download for free if you'd like. And the whole reason we're spending time on this beginning sound isolation is because we want the child to understand the alphabetic principle. We want to be careful. We're saying the beginning sounds carefully and discreetly. We're not saying ba, ka, da, va. We're paying close attention to how the children say those beginning sounds. Because when they start to decode later on, next week, next month, next year, when they get to the end of this word and they sound out those 3 letters, we want them to hear crisp, discrete sounds. Now, Let's talk about the alphabet. Beginning sound isolation forms an amazing foundation of understanding for the child of the alphabet. I believe it is the open door to understanding the alphabet. And so I want to be sure the child's ready. So Veronica, who can isolate beginning sounds, and of course many of your kindergarten and first grade kids can do this as well. I'm going to introduce the alphabet to her or to a small group of children in a very specific way. Veronica, what's the beginning sound of goat? And she says G. That's right. The goat is telling us that that letter says G. Now, what's the beginning sound of house? And she says H. That's right. The house is actually telling us what that letter says. It says H. Now, I want you to think about the beginning sound of sun. And when you're ready, I want you to tell me what that letter says. Right. S. Look at the picture of moon and think about what this letter says. Right. What does this letter say? Ah. What does this letter say? So I'm going to spend a little time. Again, I work with young children, so it's not going to happen instantly. I'm going to go back and forth with them. I'm going to play some games. I'm going to be sure that when the child looks at that card where the goat is, that she can tell me what that symbol is. So now that opens the door to the entire alphabet. If you have something in your room, some sort of a resource where the child can find any letter that they're not sure about, the picture will tell them what it is. Okay. So let's start talking about some activities that really allow the child to either learn the alphabet or to master the alphabet or to pick up those drop stitches. Because one thing I know from going into classrooms, when I go to schools to work with teachers, I always have the opportunity to work with small groups of children because the teachers actually really like watching somebody else teach. And they don't often get that opportunity. So they'll bring groups of 3 children and rotate groups of 3 children into my resource room, and I'll just play games with them while the teachers watch. And what I've found, and I think what a lot of you, the teachers, know to be true, is that the children who are struggling at the beginning levels and they're being expected to decode and they're being expected to read decodable text and connect to text, their alphabet knowledge is actually not that strong. They actually have a lot of drop stitches there. So these activities are perfect for those children in your classrooms who are already starting to decode but are struggling a bit and need to have better letter recognition. Okay, so Veronica has shown me that she can tell me what these letters say. And I totally understand that's the only reason she can tell me in some cases is because the picture is telling her. Her beginning sound isolation is her best tool. Veronica, I'm going to show you a new game. I'm going to go first. G, girl, g, g. Where's the g? Oh, there it is. It's next to the g, goat. Okay. Let me take another one. My turn. Seal. S, s. Oh, it's going to go up here next to the beneath the s, sun. Okay. Would you like a turn? You take a turn. So I'm going to observe. Can she do it? Is she confused? Is it too easy? Is it too hard? Do I need to take more turns, which I normally do anyway? I'm going to go back and forth with her. Horse. There you go. Now, here's an example of a picture that she may not know what this is. It's a little bit abstract, isn't it? Especially for a child who's an English learner, English language learner, ELL, right? So that's my opportunity to tell them that's an astronaut. Astronaut. So that's this particular game. It's independent. It invites repetition. There's something to do with the hand. They can do it in small groups with each other. They can play games. But they don't really know those letters necessarily really well. But you stop to think about it. The hammer is basically asking Veronica a multiple choice question. Where's the where's the g? And when I flip the card over so that all they see is the letter, it's still multiple choice. I'm not really asking Veronica to read those letters. When we ask a child to read a word or a sentence in a decodable text, we're giving that child a lot of tests, a lot of little mini tests, because they have to really know their alphabet well. So this is extremely reinforcing for the child. And it all starts with the beginning sound. The goose is saying, where's the g? Well, at some point, that g, that black abstract symbol up there, is like an old friend. Of course that's the g, right up there. It's easy. See? So the children who are in first and second grade who are in kindergarten at the end of the year particularly, who has, their knowledge of the alphabet is just not that strong yet. This is a great opportunity for them to just get more practice. Because in many cases, the only practice children get with their alphabet sounds is when they're being expected to read something. And that can be very challenging. That can be defeating for a child. It can lead to low self-esteem and a sense of failure. And we really want to avoid that. It's the same game, but it's different. It's the same game, but it's different in a different format. The girl is asking Veronica, where's the g? The seal is asking Veronica, where's the s? The hat is asking Veronica, where's the h? It's multiple choice. It's very reinforcing of the letter sounds and the letter symbols. And it's independent. And it's based on the child, on two things. It's based on the child's beginning sound isolation, and it's based on the fact that she's been introduced to those letters at some point. Now, teachers will ask, what about the B and the R underneath the picture of the girl? You haven't introduced the B and the R yet. That's fine, I don't need to. I'm only worried about the G. I'm only focusing on the G. So when she says, when the little picture of the girl says, where's the G? Veronica's mind, her brain, her eye, her ear, all immediately go to that letter, the G, which has become a friend of hers. When I give instruction to young children, when I'm tutoring or coaching, or if I go into your school to work with children and to present some things to the teachers, I'm basically just supervising practice. I'm not teaching children anything except how to play games. But I have to be careful that the game I give to them is appropriate. That's not too easy, it's not too hard, it's in their wheelhouse, and that they're going to get some really good practice with something that they need to have more mastery in. When I'm working with young children, I'm not teaching the alphabet. I'm teaching the alphabetic principle, and I'm teaching the child games to play so that they can reinforce the sounds that we put on symbols. We have to remember that it takes children hundreds of exposures for a letter to become fully automatic in memory. Now, when I'm working with young children, when I'm organizing my own tutoring centers, or if I'm going in to help a school set up in a preschool classroom, I teach the alphabet in clusters. I break it up into smaller groups of letters so that, for a couple of things, this allows me to organize the materials in the environment. It also allows me as the teacher to be more accountable, to know which children know which letter sounds. So the games that I just showed you, I have them organized so that the only answers are those 5 letters, A, G, H, M, S. Once the child's familiar with those games, and you can start to see by observing that they actually start to do them more quickly, then I can start to move them into this cluster 2 or cluster 3, cluster 4. Now I have 5 clusters. You might do it differently. Again, this is my method. This is something that I outline in my book, The Klein Method of Early Reading Mastery. But these ideas can be used in your own way as supplemental concepts or ideas or games. So again, I'm not trying to push my method on you. I'm trying to push the games and activities that can really help you give children more repetition and more mastery. Now, I'm going to talk very briefly, and of course, you're going to have all sorts of different things you do in your classroom to allow the children and the students to put sounds and symbols together. So my games, you don't have to use my games, but I think the concept is what I'm trying to get at. Let's talk briefly about phoneme segmentation. The child's ability to look at cat and say k, a, t. This, to me, is the most important reading readiness skill of everything in the known universe. I want children to look at boot and say b, oot, ch, ch, g, oo, s. And last week we spent time showing you how I do this. There we go. Okay. So the set of cards I have that you can download has a picture and 3 circles. Each picture only has 3 phonemes. Doesn't matter how we spell it, it's just 3 phonemes. Sheep, sh, eep. Goat, g, oat. So let me show you how we play the game. Okay, Veronica, I'm going to hide a picture. Watch my mouth and see if you can guess what I'm hiding from you. Ready? K, p. Right. Cup. Try another one. B, oo, t. Right. Boot. So when the child guesses the picture, I hand it to them. Now, the interesting thing about this game is I can play with 10 different children and play it in 10 different ways. So for a very young child, I might give them a choice of pictures. Which one is the g-oat? They're going to be right every time. For another child, I'll hide the picture but keep the sounds very close together. S-a-k. Right. Sock. And as the child gets better at this game, understanding at a subconscious or a conscious level what's going on with these silly sounds that I'm making, and they become really familiar with this set of pictures, the vocabulary of these pictures, I can start to separate the sounds further apart. K, ouch. Right. Couch. B, d. Right. Bird. B, oo, t. Boot. So you can see how I can differentiate my instruction basically. For each child, I can make it separate the sounds far enough so that it's challenging, but that they're always going to get it right. And I want to just reinforce something we talked about last week. We're talking about phoneme segmentation. That is separating the sounds. It's not holding on to the sounds. It's separating them into discrete, distinct phonemes. Now, I wanted to review about phoneme segmentation, and this is another way I do it, is with my blending game bingo. Who has f, ish. Who has b, us? What? Excuse me. What's happening with this game is that the entire time that these young children, and they can be 3 years old, they can be 7 years old, the entire time that they're practicing their blending skills and becoming really, really, really good at blending, I am modeling for their brain phoneme segmentation. I am modeling for them phoneme segmentation because that is my ultimate goal. The blending part is pretty easy. The segmentation is going to take a while. So it's very typical that the beginning and struggling readers are not great or can't segment phonemically. So this is a group of these are first grade kids in California, very struggling, very beginning, and I was modeling for the teachers how to play a game that allows the children to practice their phoneme segmentation. So we play the blending game because that's what a child's going to use when he starts to decode. He's going to sound out the three sounds, the three letters, k, a, t, and then blend them together with cat. But the blending game teaches children how to segment. And segmentation is the most important reading readiness skill. Struggling readers often are unable to segment words into sounds. Phoneme segmentation is a predictor of reading success. Let me just talk about one more thing. This same game where I'm hiding the picture and giving them three sounds and then giving them the card when they're right is I can switch places with the child and ask the child to give me three sounds. Now let's just say a child has this card. And this is how he gives me the sounds. He says, dog. Now, that's not phoneme segmentation. Dog is not phoneme segmentation. Maybe he says, d-og. That's also not phoneme segmentation. But you know what? He's sort of in the ballpark. I'm not going to correct him. I'm not going to try to teach him. When he says d-og, I'm going to say d-og, dog. So I'm going to model back the proper phoneme segmentation and then guess the word. So I'm continuing to model for him, but I'm giving him some good practice because he's almost there. He's almost there. Now, actually, the other thing I want to say about this, and this question always comes up, you're going to have English language learners who don't know what these pictures are. Right? Even some of our English-speaking children might not recognize what us oldies know to be a nurse, right? Nurses don't quite look like that anymore. So if I'm giving three sounds to any child who can blend, and I say n, s, even if the child doesn't know what a nurse is, he's going to say nurse. And then I'll show him what it is. And if I need to, I'll explain to him what it is. So the vocabulary is learned as you play the blending game. It's not a hindrance if the child is not an English language learner, or if is not an English-speaking child, or is not yet proficient in English. Okay, let me move on. Let me show you why. I'm going to get back to the alphabet here real quick because if a child can segment, it opens the door to the world of words and decoding. We're going to talk about decoding next week. But for those of you who are teaching first and second grade children who are already decoding, but they're struggling, they need some to pick up some drop stitches. They need some activities to give them some confidence. They're going to be able to do word building activities, which we'll talk about next week. P, I, G. They're going to be able to start doing some decoding work. Again, I'm not going to spend any time on this right now, but the segmentation is going to allow the child to have great success right away with these decoding activities. I talked briefly about it last week. But what I want to talk about right now is how some of your children who are already segmenting, some of the activities that they can do. Like this one. Let's see if I can find it. That's the wrong one. Give me just a second. Here we go. If a child can segment the picture of cat, if he can segment at all, I can show him some other alphabet work. Okay, my turn. K, a, t. There it is. T. P, a, t. F, a, x. Now again, I think this is deceptively simple. What I love about this activity is that it gives the child a lot of practice with phoneme segmentation, number one. Number two, it's letter recognition at a multiple choice level. So it's very reinforcing of those letters again, those letter sounds. K, a, p. So again, it's simple, but it is hands-on. It's something that would be very appropriate for a first and second grade classroom, especially if you have children who need those foundational alphabet skills and phoneme segmentation. So I wanted to show you that game. And then here's another game I'm going to show you real quick. The middle sounds. K, a, t, p, a, t, p, a. There it is. So think about this. What are the 5 letters that children have most problems with when they're starting to read decodable text? 3-letter short vowel, 4-letter short vowel words. It's those five short vowels. And they start to read them, but it's all mushy and they come up with the wrong word. It can be really challenging, and we see that all the time with young kindergarten and first grade kids. Now what we see in this game is that the child who can segment, and that's why segmentation is so important, to be crisp, clean, discrete. The child is saying k, a. He's saying a perfect a. And he's putting that perfect a sound on that symbol. So it's extremely reinforcing not only about reading that letter, but saying it perfectly. Find another one. It's another, the eh. Oh boy, that eh is hard. Eh. W, eh, b. W, eh. Okay? So I wanted to show you that activity as well. I don't have a gold star on this page, but I'm pretty sure it's one of the ones on my website that you can download. Now again, I give my stuff away for free digitally because I think it's so important. I work with teachers in Africa every Saturday morning. They have no money. I can't ship stuff to them. It's extremely expensive. But they can find someone to print out some of this stuff. And even if it's on thin paper, it's something they can start using in their classrooms. So I want to give it away. It's available to anybody. But I realize that schools and teachers are sort of done with making materials. So I do sell my materials, and you'll find that on my website. I'm more interested in selling my ideas than I am in selling you the game. So don't feel like I'm trying to push you into my into buying stuff. Oh, I'm still not getting my thing. Let me try another one. X. Okay, there. I finally got one in the chat box. That's my email. Again, oh, there's my website again. Okay, so I'm not doing so good with these little chat things. So sorry. But I'll do better next week, I promise. Okay. All right. let's go back to some games. Did you have a question, Donna, or want to say something?
No, we do have questions though, so we can catch those at the end.
Okay, we have time. Okay, we're getting pretty close here. Let me just show you another game which I really like. Again, finding the middle sound of a word requires the ability to segment the word in its individual sound parts, which is a phonemic awareness task, not a hearing skill. Teachers can be pretty obsessed with, well, how do you teach the middle sound and how do you teach the end sound? And I say, I don't. I teach them how to segment. If they can segment, then they can get to wherever they need to go. Okay, let me show you another activity real quick. Well, here it is. Okay. Okay, my turn, Veronica. We have to find the middle sound, the second sound. S, n. S, Your turn. J, et. J, e. So again, it's multiple choice letter recognition. It allows the child to put the perfect sound to that symbol, because I'm not really asking the child to read the symbols. I'm asking them to recognize it, to identify it as a multiple choice. Run, n, Okay? Okay, let me just do a really quick review and then we'll take questions. It is so important for teachers, even first and second grade teachers, to understand the importance of beginning sound isolation. It is not just something that we test for. We want children to use it because we want them to understand the alphabetic principle. I am really good at teaching young children the alphabet because I'm really good at conveying to them the alphabetic principle and then giving them activities which reinforce the sounds of those black abstract symbols that we call letters. I teach them beginning sound isolation by playing the bingo games. I give them other activities to do so they can practice their beginning sound isolation once they can isolate beginning sounds. I introduce the alphabet, or I reinforce the alphabet sounds with activities that combine a picture with letters. Okay.
You ready?
I'm ready for some questions. I hope this was helpful to you. When you ask a question, if you come on, we can raise your hand. Maybe Donna can see who's asking a question, or you can unmute. Let us know what you teach, what age children you teach. Go ahead.
Okay, first question. When you say alphabet, are you just referring to the sound symbol relationship, or are you also referring to the sequence of the alphabet?
I'm only ever referring to the sounds of the letters. And that's because I'm an early childhood educator. I know that there's research and other programs and even experts. I was at the Big Sky Literacy Summit this last week in Big Sky, Montana. A lot of PhDs and great researchers that were there. And programs ask you to teach the alphabet names. Mm-hmm. So you have to do what your principal requires you to do. I just know that I want children to read, and I want to give them the alphabet sounds.
Okay, let me follow up on that. Then when do you teach the alphabet names then after the sounds?
Once a child knows the alphabet sounds and starting to decode, of course I want to prepare them for kindergarten, and I'll go back and we'll play games with alphabet names. And then it's easy. It's very easy. Now, one of the principles of early childhood education, really of teaching, is don't teach a young child two things at once. You teach them in isolation. So either teach the alphabet name or the alphabet sound, but don't do them together. I mean, that's to me is a principle that I follow, but I understand that's not always the case. Once a child really is really strong with alphabet sounds and really connected with the alphabet, the letter names are easy.
Okay, do you share the sequence for introducing and teaching letters in your book? Do you teach letter names and sounds at the same time? We're ready.
Yeah. I don't teach the letters names at the same time. I do have a sequence of clusters. Again, I teach it in clusters. Now, let me talk about that for a second, because you have some first grade kids who are already reading, but they really need more letter work. They really need more alphabet activity. You don't need to break them down into the clusters. You can just give them alphabet activities, and you can quickly realize which ones they really know well, which ones they need to practice with, and you can organize your alphabet in any way. But for the younger children, in my early childhood classrooms and my tutoring centers, when I coach and tutor young children, I do sort of move through a sequence of clusters.
Okay. Is there a rationale behind how the letters were selected in the clusters?
I tried to keep letters that look alike and sound alike separate. I try to keep the 5 vowels separate. I think one of my clusters actually has 2 vowels, but they're different. They sound different and they look different. But no, there's no big science to that. I know different programs do have clusters for various reasons.
Okay. Is there a benefit to having kindergartners and beginning first graders match upper to lowercase letters? I've seen many teachers use this for a center.
Sure. What I like is I have a game where on one side of the card is a picture and on the other side of the card is a letter. And I have upper and lowercase. So the children get together and they have a little pile, like a card game. They put it in front of them and then everyone takes a turn. There's a letter on the top. I wish I had it with me. And the child has to read the letter and then he turns the card over to see if he's right. The picture, of course, will correlate to the beginning sound. So that's one way I do teach the uppercase letters. And so they become really familiar with it. Because, again, they're so good at the alphabetic principle. They're so good at figuring out what a letter says just by the picture.
Okay, that's the end of our questions. Maybe someone else has something we'd like to ask you.
I want to say hi to a friend who is in South Africa who joined us. Pamela, good to see you. I have a friend in Alaska who joined us today. Thank you, Karen. Another thing before we ask more questions, I give these presentations, these Zoom presentations for free. I can come into your school for a professional development for 1 hour, 1.5 hours. If you feel like there are other teachers in your school that feel like that they would benefit from hearing me or throwing around ideas and listening to my perspective, I'm happy to do that. Just contact me. We can figure out a time to come into your school. Little by little, I am going into schools again because things are starting to open up a little bit. And again, when I go into a school, I give my presentation. Sometimes I give it twice because teachers can't always be available at the same time. It's really hard running a school, isn't it? But I always sit in a room and work with small groups of children because I just feel it's so important for teachers to see how I teach different games, and it just gives them new ideas about what they can do with some of their children.
Okay, we have another question. What about letter formation? Where does that fit in?
It's hard teaching writing, letter formation, and I'm not an expert. I found that in my early childhood classrooms that I started to focus much more on the printing of letters once the children already knew letters. I personally, this is a little controversial, don't try to teach the child to write the letter as I'm teaching him the letter. It's, to me, I got more bang for my buck if a child already knew some letters, it already connected to letter sounds. Then when I taught them how to write, how to print a letter correctly, the formation of a letter, they were much more engaged. They already understood what they're trying to learn. And then one of the great suggestions that I found online from some kindergarten teachers is the most important letters for a child to learn how to write are the letters of their name. So every child in my classroom, the first letter they learned how to write was different. Robert learned how to write a capital R. Susan learned how to write a capital S, and then when she got pretty good at that, then we went to the U, this lowercase u. It allowed me to teach myself how to teach writing because it's so hard. And the other thing that I found from research, from reading about handwriting, and again, there are some great programs out there, and I'm not an expert. I just feel it's really important to have verbal prompts to help a child remember how to form a letter.
Yes, that is done in many programs.
Yeah.
Okay, here's a comment. Someone said they took materials and broke the clusters up. The first one was SATPIN or SATPIN, which is frequently used by different programs as the first sounds to teach, because there are so many words a student can build and read using those letters.
That's very good. Now, when I work with preschool teachers or Montessori teachers, I come from a Montessori background, I don't agree with that in some cases, because I have found that teachers need to become really, really good at teaching the entire alphabet. And if you only teach them 5 or 6 letters and they're starting to build words, you end up not going back and giving the child enough help with the other letters. It's a shortcut. Certainly if I'm working with a first grader or a second grader who is really starting from scratch, it's a great technique because you're going to teach them some letters and they can start building and reading words right away. So there's a place for that. But again, I'm an early childhood educator and I'm very careful when I'm teaching teachers or demonstrating an environment, a prepared environment, that we really want to focus on making sure the alphabet becomes really strong.
Okay, that's it for questions. All right, if people want to stay on, you can to ask questions. Right?
Yeah, I'm happy to stay on for a little while longer. Please don't hesitate. There's Michael Stone. Hi, Michael. We need to have a Zoom call. We didn't quite make it last week, so let's get that together. I think everyone's got my email, my website. I'm very accessible. This is my passion. I mean, this is what I live for, is to talk about reading instruction, especially for young children. And I found my niche because first and second grade teachers, reading coaches, reading specialists, Title I teachers, they need materials, they need hands-on, and they're working with children who don't know their alphabet that well. They're not even great at decoding yet. So next week, we're going to talk about decoding mastery. And I hope that you'll be able to join us and tell your friends about it. I'm so grateful to Donna and her Facebook group for allowing this to happen. Thank you again, Donna.
You're so welcome. Exciting to see, we do what we can, right?
We do what we can, and thank you for your service to the children of your community and the children of the world. So I'm going to stay on. I'll just see some happy faces. There's Pamela. I see Susan McLean-Wells, an old friend of mine. Please unmute yourself and ask a question if you'd like. Sharon Casey, thank you for joining us for me tonight. These are some of my friends, Donna, which I've been sharing the link to, and
that's so great.
Yeah.
Awesome. I had a question.
Okay.
And sorry, I missed the beginning, so you probably already answered this, but with the bingo game, I had downloaded it because I wanted to play it with a little group, and I was confused how to do that. It looked like it was only set up for one kid or something, because the same pictures aren't on different boards,
Okay. Now you're talking about beginning sound bingo?
Yeah.
All right, let's play. Let's play this.
Or the word segmentation bingo, either one.
Okay, let's start with this one.
Okay.
So Veronica I can see what card children have. So I've got 7 children, and they've each got a different card. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, from my perspective, I can see who's got what. So it's not the classic bingo game where I'm picking up, a card off the top and calling it out. I can see what I'm going to call, and I can give children enough turns. So Veronica has the wagon card, Thomas has the key card, and Virginia has the horse card. So who has hammer? So Virginia puts her game piece on hammer, and I'm going to remind her, Virginia, I'm going to get these kids mixed up because I can't remember who they are. Virginia, remember, you have to say hammer. Who has monkey? Now, at some point, I stop saying who has, who has, who has. I just say fan, leaf, lamp. And I'll remind children that they have to repeat after me, lamp, lion. Now, that's the beginning sound bingo. Let me do the...
So they're all different people have different cards, and it's fine. Nobody like gets bingo first in that way, or you choose by calling who gets,
Exactly. I'm controlling the whole thing.
Okay. And only one person has the thing that you say each time.
Yeah, I always say, get your game piece ready so that they're doing it. Now, I have played this game thousands and thousands of times. And so if you were to see me do this game with young children in the classroom, man, it's happening. I'm trying to get as much repetition as I can without making it feel like I'm rushing children or I'm in a hurry. I minimize what I say, and I say goat, girl, house. I give those sounds, and they put their game piece on, and they're really engaged in finding the picture and putting their game piece on. Now let's go really quickly to the blending game bingo. It's the same concept. Actually, it's interesting because let me see if I can find it here. Where is it?
I get it now. I understand.
Now with the blending game bingo, I was talking to a parent of a 4-year-old who has this game, and she's saying as soon as she says she's going to say fish. Oh no, she's going to play the blending game. Let me pull that up real quick so we're looking at it together. Oh, here it is. Okay. As soon as she's going to say ish. But as soon as she says the little 4-year-old knows what the game what mom's going to ask for. She knows she's going to want the fish. So the mom asks the child to close her eyes. Okay, the little girl's name is Vesta. Vesta, close your eyes. At. So Vesta has to say hat. And then she can open her eyes and put her game piece on there. So that's a little variation on that one. Okay?
Okay, here's a question. Does that mean you teach all the letter sounds before teaching decoding? It was, taken out of context. So
I do when I'm teaching, when I have an early childhood classroom, and even if I were teaching kindergarten again, every child would go through, even the children who knew a lot of letters, maybe even the children who are starting to decode, they would very quickly go through the way that I organize my environment. Now, so I would with early childhood, but again, a lot of our kindergarten teachers who are at the end of the school year, they have kids who are decoding. They sort of know most of their alphabet. They're not going to make them stop decoding and say, no, you can't decode anymore. We have to go back. You're just going to find ways. And next week, we'll really see some good activities to help reinforce what I'm talking about. We're going to help them be better at decoding because that involves letter recognition, letter sounds, and phoneme segmentation. So I'm not going to stop the train and go, okay, we have to stop and go back. But, alphabet knowledge, it drives the engine. Actually, I shouldn't say that. I think phoneme segmentation is that engine that's driving everything. But without strong letter recognition, letter sounds, it stops and starts. It's just not a great smooth decoding experience.
all right, I don't see any more questions.
I am so grateful for everyone that showed up tonight. I hope I get some emails from you folks. There's one other thing I will show you. I'll put it in the chat. Doc, it doesn't give the... I'm going to do this. You stay there. Do not move. Do not move. I'm going to do this because I have a tutorial, a free tutorial, which is actually really my book in chapter form, where you can, as a whole lot more illustrations, more detailed instructions, and again, it's from my method, but anybody can use it as a supplemental idea. So I want to show that to you, and I want to remind you that last week's presentation on phonemic awareness is on Donna's Facebook page right here.
YouTube.
Oh, YouTube page, I'm sorry. And, oh, here, I found it. I can give you the link to all these downloadable files. Okay, so.
Yeah, that I got for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Randall. Have a good night.
I'm going to wait. Don't close the session. I have to copy and paste all of these chats so I can see if there are anything fun that I want to respond to or questions.
Here's a comment. Are we in December now with all these gifts? Yes, Christopher.
It'd be fun if people showed me their faces and just waved as they said goodbye. It's sort of fun to see teachers who are dedicated to working with their children. Oh, there's Leah Stembler. Thanks for joining us, Leah. Okay. Well, Donna, I don't want to take any more of your time. There's Helga. Hi, Helga. Helga, say something to me. Where do you teach? What do you teach? Was this helpful to you?
I'm a resource and early literacy teacher in Langley, British Columbia, and I took a workshop with you in spring, and several of my colleagues in the Montessori stream in the building have taken workshops with you, so
okay.
I'm glad to be coming alongside them.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us.
That's nice.
Anybody else want to say hi and maybe offer a couple comments? Okay. Well, Donna, thank you again. And
welcome. Thank you.
We'll see you next week on Decoding Mastery for young children, ages 3 to 7. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.